And I know that you have tried to do things the right way. So I'm asking you, begging you, to do the right thing now.
What does Savannah Guthrie's latest plea, seemingly to the people responsible for taking her mom, mean? It has been nearly 6 months since authorities say a masked man took her 84-year-old mom, Nancy, in the middle of the night. And it has been weeks since there has been a major update in the investigation, potentially until now. The Pima County Sheriff just made some very interesting remarks on where this case stands. Could authorities be closing in on the answer to the question that has hung over the Guthrie family, countless members of law enforcement, and millions of people who have followed this story? Where is Nancy?
I need you to stay with me here, because what you're about to hear might just be the crack in the case that changes everything. You already know what I'm about to say. We all knew this wasn't going to be a simple story, but 6 months. 6 months since an 84-year-old woman was taken from her own home in the middle of the night. And we're still here, still waiting, still asking the same question that's been burning a hole in all our minds. Where is Nancy Guthrie? It was February 1st. Early hours. A masked man shows up on her doorstep. Armed. Backpack on. The Ring camera catches him. Clear as day. And then nothing. She's gone. From a metropolitan area. Not some remote cabin in the woods. Not some rural farmhouse. A home in Tucson, Arizona. And the sheriff's office says they have so much DNA to sort through. So much video evidence. They're still positive they're going to resolve this. But here's the thing though. It's been 6 months. And you and I both know that resolve doesn't mean the same thing as solved.
Anna's message that she put on her social media. And then you have like a quote from Chris Nanos, who's the sheriff in Pima County. Of course, he's been at the center of a lot of criticism of this case because you're the head guy in the county where all of this went down. And his quote was, "We have so much DNA to sort through. We have so much in terms of video evidence to look at." But then like the line, which, you know, of course, somebody's in an elected position is going to try to say like, hey, they're getting close. And I'm not saying that they aren't. But he says, I'm still positive we're going to resolve this case. Like resolve is just kind of an interesting word. And that's what stood out to me. Am I looking too far into it, kind of into the weeds of like word choice here? Or like when you say resolve in law enforcement, especially someone in the situation like Chris Nano says, what does that mean to you?
Well, I've never used that word. I use cleared. We're going to clear the case. We're going to lock somebody up or whatever. Resolve the case. I mean, at this point, are we thinking? Here's one thing. I'm going to just hit one point. You said there's all this DNA and all this video. It's been 6 months. It's been 6 months, and well, I don't know that they have anything back, but they haven't released anything out to the public. And everything we sit here and talk about is all speculation because we don't know anything because we haven't seen the case file. But in 6 months, you should have something. If you have all this DNA evidence, you should have something. Now, I agreed. You got to eliminate familial DNA and all that stuff, but something should be happening within 6 months. And resolve? What does that mean?
It doesn't mean they found her. It doesn't mean they have a suspect in cuffs. It just means they hope to close the file someday. And that's not good enough. Not for Nancy, not for her family, and not for us. Now Savannah Guthrie, her daughter, you know her. The Today Show. She's been relentless. And I mean that in the best way possible. She's used her platform. She's kept this story alive when other people would have faded into the background. She posted this video on July 27th. And look, I want you to watch it again, but I want you to listen differently this time. She says, I know that you have tried to do things the right way. So I'm asking you, begging you to do the right thing now.
I'm coming on today with a very specific message. It has been months since our mom was taken from us. Our family is in agony. We are in a nightmare that will not end. Nothing about our situation has changed. We have done our part, and we will never stop looking for her. We will always ache for her and feel that hole in our hearts. The world can be a cruel and unforgiving place, and I know that you have tried to do things the right way. So I'm asking you, begging you, to do the right thing now. Make the right choice. Help us find her. Tell us where to look for her. I truly believe it is never too late to do the right thing. help us bring this situation to an end. For all of us, no matter where we've been and what we've done, I believe there is always a way home.
Wait, rewind that. She knows they tried to do things the right way? The people who took her mom? The people who ripped an elderly woman from her bed in the dead of night? That's a strange choice of words. Actually, let me rephrase that. It's a deeply intentional choice of words. You don't accidentally say that. You don't just throw that out there off the cuff. That line came from somewhere, from someone. And it's either the FBI coaching her, or it's a direct message to someone specific. Someone she knows is watching. And that's where this gets dark. Because if you go back to her first video, February 4th, right after the abduction, she describes her mom. She is kind, faithful, loyal, fiercely loving. She is funny, spunky, and clever. She has grandchildren that adore her. And then she says something that made my blood run cold. Talk to her, and you'll see. Now, you tell me if that sounds familiar. Because those of us who remember the 1991 movie Silence of the Lambs, we know exactly where that line comes from.
This was the first time she spoke to them on February 4th.
Our mom is a kind, faithful, loyal, fiercely loving woman of goodness and light. She is funny, spunky, and clever. She has grandchildren that adore her and crowd around her and cover her with kisses. She loves fun and adventure. She is a devoted friend. She is full of kindness and knowledge. Talk to her and you'll see.
So when you watch that video, there's a very interesting part of it. Quote, talk to her and you'll see. Now, when that came out, there were a lot of people online who drew parallels to the 1991 movie Silence of the Lambs. And in that movie, there is a senator who makes a televised plea to the bad guy in the film, Buffalo Bill, for the safe return of her daughter. And the quote in Silence of the Lambs is, Catherine is very gentle and kind. Talk to her and you'll see. Now, it is
In the film, a senator makes a televised plea to Buffalo Bill. She describes her missing daughter. Catherine is very gentle and kind. Talk to her and you'll see. Same phrasing, almost verbatim. Now, is that a coincidence? Maybe, maybe not. But when you're dealing with a case like this, with ransom notes and mysterious messages and cryptic social media posts, there are no coincidences. You know that, just like I know that. The thing nobody talks about, though, and I need you to really hear me here, is the ransom note situation.
We received your message and we understand. We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace. This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
Then she made this plea on February 15th.
And I wanted to say to whoever has her or knows where she is that it's never too late. And you're not lost or alone. And it is never too late to do the right thing. And we are here. And we believe. And we believe in the essential goodness of every human being.
Because it's messy, it's convoluted, and it might just be the key to unlocking all of this. Let me slow down for a second and speak to you personally. This case has bothered me, not just as a journalist, not just as someone who covers these stories, but as a person, because I look at Nancy Guthrie and I think about my own grandmother. I think about the women in my life, and the idea that someone would do this to an 84-year-old woman, someone's mother, someone's grandmother, and then vanish into thin air. It makes me sick, actually sick, and I know I'm not alone in feeling that. So when I tell you what I'm about to tell you, I want you to understand that this isn't just a story to me. It's personal, and I think it should be personal to you too. Okay, let's get back to it. Because the breadcrumbs are here, we just have to follow them. A crime reporter named Brianna Whitney, she was working locally in Arizona when this happened. She just shared parts of the first alleged ransom note on the Crime Junkie podcast. And I want to read this to you verbatim. It starts with, "Hello, Savannah. We have your mother, Nancy. She is safe but scared. She will be held for ransom, and once payment is received, she will be released unharmed. We will be holding her for a maximum of 7 days." The note demands millions of dollars in USD. Now pause there, because Whitney points something out that I think is genius. People who say USD are typically not from the United States. If you're American, you just say dollars. You don't specify US dollars. It's a subtle tell. And the Mexico border is only about an hour from Tucson. So you connect the dots. The note goes on to say, once payment is received at the Bitcoin address below, she will be released within 12 hours of deposit to a safe drop-off location back in Tucson. It gives a deadline, Monday the 9th at 5 p.m. It says, if the payment is not received by then, she will be killed. And then it says, your mother is aware of this and her.
About the case in a story that aired on Tuesday, July 28th, today. The sheriff said, quote, "We have so much DNA to sort through. We have so much in terms of video evidence to look at." He also said, quote, "I'm still positive that we're going to resolve this case." In recent weeks, there has been some new reporting out there about the alleged ransom notes that were sent reportedly to the Guthrie family and some media outlets in Arizona in the days after Nancy was taken. Now, you might remember there were two, which the FBI is still reportedly investigating for authenticity. A crime reporter named Brianna Whitney, who worked as a TV reporter in Arizona at the time Nancy Guthrie went missing, just shared parts of what she says was in the first ransom note on the Crime Junkie podcast. So I want to read for you what she says the ransom note said. She says it begins with, quote, "Hello, Savannah. We have your mother, Nancy. She is safe but scared. She will be held for ransom, and once payment is received, she will be released unharmed. We will be holding her for a maximum of 7 days." Now, she says that the writer of that alleged ransom note then demands millions of dollars in USD, which is interesting because, as she points out, if you watch that episode, people who say USD are typically people who are not in the United States. If you're in the US, you just say dollars, right? Now, they also just mentioned Savannah in the letter, not her sister and not her brother. Now, it is important to note that the Mexico border, just about an hour away from where Nancy Guthrie lived in Tucson. The note goes on to say, quote, "Once payment is received to the Bitcoin address below, she will be released within 12 hours of deposit to a safe drop-off location back in Tucson. If the payment is not received by the last deadline on Monday the 9th at 5 p.m., she will be killed. Your mother is aware of this, and her life is in your hands. It is in the best interest of everyone to have this completed as soon as possible. You will not be able to contact me from here on out. There will be no negotiation. Do not play games. Law enforcement will not be able to help you." Now, Whitney says at the end of that alleged letter, whoever wrote it says that Nancy had a white smartwatch on the floor near her bed, and there was also a mention of a floodlight that was destroyed in her backyard. Whitney says that there was a Bitcoin wallet also listed at the bottom of the note for where the money could be deposited. Now, the FBI hasn't publicly said whether that note's legit. NBC News has reported there was a second alleged ransom note sent to media outlets that reportedly had said that Nancy Guthrie had died. That note did not request payment or give an apology, but NBC said it expressed regrets.
Now here's where it gets really interesting. At the end of that alleged letter, the writer mentions that Nancy had a white smartwatch on the floor near her bed, and that there was a floodlight destroyed in her backyard. Tiny details. Specific details. The kind of details only someone who was actually there would know. And the FBI? They're reportedly investigating the authenticity of these notes, but they haven't publicly said whether they're real. Reuters published a report saying FBI sources told them they don't believe the letters are authentic, but NBC says their sources claim it's possible they are real. So what are we supposed to believe? That's the question. That's the breadcrumb. And it leads to another question. If the notes are real, why hasn't the FBI traced the Bitcoin wallet? Why hasn't there been any movement on it? A small amount of money was actually deposited into that wallet, just to see if anyone would take it. Nothing. Not a single transaction. The wallet's still sitting there, untouched.
Involved. I mean, clearly, the day that we figure out what happened, it is going to be one of the biggest news stories of the year, of the last several years, I would say. And it's but yet it's like we still don't know where this Bitcoin wallet was. We still don't know where these emails were coming from, at least like publicly. Like, are you surprised with all the resources the FBI has apparently put into this, along with the local sheriff's office, that it doesn't even seem like there's any sort of information about even where these ransom notes are potentially coming from? It still seems like it's up in the air whether or not they're actually legit.
Stunned. I'm stunned. Listen, I don't know how all that tracing works, but I know it gets traced. I know if I send an email, someone's going to find out where I sent the email from. Now, I know that there's ways to bounce it to different spots so you can't trace it directly, but this is the FBI. This is one of the best law enforcement agencies in the world with all the technology and all the funding. I can't, for the life of me, figure out how they don't know where these things were sent from. It's stunning to me. Now, hopefully they do, and they're not telling us, which is another hope that I have, is that they have a lot of information that they're just not releasing, and they don't have to release it. But I just worry that maybe they don't have as much as I hope they do, because I can't figure out why you wouldn't know where the Bitcoin, and they put some money into the Bitcoin to see if there was any movement on that. Nothing happened. They did pay something to that Bitcoin, if you remember, small amount of money to see if there was any action on it. And there's never been any movement on that Bitcoin wallet.
And that tells me something. That tells me whoever wrote that note either wasn't serious about the ransom, or they knew they were never going to collect it. Because if you're actually a kidnapper, you're going to watch that wallet like a hawk. You're going to move that money as soon as it hits. You don't just leave it there. That's not how these things work. That's not how any of this works. And look, I know I'm not a detective. I'm not a forensic analyst. But I've covered enough of these cases to know when something doesn't add up. In this case, it doesn't add up. Then there's the second alleged ransom note, the one sent to media outlets. That note reportedly said that Nancy Guthrie had died. It didn't request payment. It didn't give an apology, but it expressed regrets over her passing. Now, if that note is real, the whole dynamic changes. Because now we're not talking about a kidnapping for ransom anymore. We're talking about something else entirely. Something darker. Something that we're not being told. And I want to circle back to something Will Spieler said. He's the retired detective commander with the Chicago Police Department. He pointed out that Savannah's recent video contains some very specific phrasing. "We've done our part," she said. What does that mean?
Always great to talk to you on these cases. What do you make of the latest message that Savannah Guthrie's put on her social media?
There was a lot of interesting things in that message, Chris. One of the things that struck me right off the bat is one of the first lines of the message that said, "We've done our part." What could that possibly mean? I mean, to me, that can mean that there's been some kind of exchange, possibly. What other part is the family of the abducted? What other role do they play except to pay?
What do you make of like the timing of it too? I mean, she has not posted she's done a couple interviews. She did one with Hoda. And then there's been, a couple moments where she's made mention of what's happened. But as far as, we saw a couple of these, very personal messages she put on Instagram at the beginning of this back in February, and she hasn't done it for months. What do you make of the fact that 5 months after the last time she posted something like this, here she is again? Like, does that tell you that there is that type of development, or maybe she's being coached by the FBI as opposed to just trying to keep this story in the news by posting a video that people are going to be talking about?
Well, I think you got a combination of things going on here. One thing, and I knew this as a watch commander working midnights in Area 2 homicide in Chicago, you would get phone calls on anniversaries of events, birthdays, milestones of when it happened, like anniversary dates of when the murders happened or whatever. And you would see certain milestones. 6 months is one of them. Savannah and Nancy's coming up on 6 months now.
Yep.
It'll be 6 months in a couple of days. So it could be it's a milestone. It could be it's a 6-month thing. Let's make sure everybody's still talking about this, even though everybody is. But some of the verbiage in that note suggests that possibly she is getting some coaching from behavior analysis from the FBI.
Yeah, there are a couple of the lines. I just was pulling it up here, just from the verbatim of what she said. And I know you have tried to do things the right way. So I'm asking you, begging you to do the right thing now, make the right choice, help us find her. It's just the idea of like, you tried to do things the right way. Like, what do you make of that line?
Well, so if this is in fact was a kidnapping for ransom, you had to bring the person you kidnapped somewhere. My theory on this, or my thought on this, a possibility is this plea is going out to the person who possibly wrote note number two, or possibly was supposed to be the caregiver until this ransom was paid. You see what I mean there?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
this is somebody who maybe was supposed to be taking care of this person, and obviously she died. Well, I believe she died. And maybe this is their appeal to this person, saying, listen, you've been trying to do the right
What other
thing.
part does a family play in an abduction? They pay the ransom. They cooperate with law enforcement. They make public pleas. But we've done our part, suggests something transactional, something reciprocal, like there was an agreement. And they held up their end. But the other side didn't. And now she's begging them to do the right thing. The thing that they were supposed to do all along. Bring her mom home. Spieler also made a point about the timing. 6 months. That's a milestone. Anniversaries of events. Birthdays. The date of the abduction. These are moments when families make public appeals to keep the case alive, to remind people that their loved one is still out there, or that justice still hasn't been served. And maybe that's all this is. A 6-month plea. A reminder to the world that Nancy Guthrie is still missing. But Spieler also acknowledged something else. Something that cuts to the heart of this entire investigation. He said, I believe Nancy died pretty quick after the incident, or maybe even during it.
I've never worked a kidnapping, and I've worked a few of them, where a letter wasn't left or instant communication was not left for the family with specific instructions. This is hours and hours later, days later, when the letter, or a day later when the letter came in, right?
Right.
That's a long time for a kidnapper not to communicate with family. To me, I've never seen one that wasn't left on. I never saw a kidnapping where there was never a note left on scene or immediate communication with the family or whoever they're trying to get their ransom from. And I've never seen one where there wasn't instant proof of life. So it could be Mexico. I mean, Mexico, like you said, is only an hour away, but I believe Nancy died pretty quick after the incident, or maybe even during it. That's a long way to ride down across the border with a body in your car.
I mean, she was someone who had, she was, apparently very sharp mentally from what the family has said, but she had health issues. Like, she couldn't walk 50 yards, I think it was, like, on her own. And this is an 84-year-old woman, in the middle of the night being taken from her house. And then apparently in the second letter, NBC said that, whoever had written
it. And that's the truth
said,
that nobody wants to face. Because if she died that night, or shortly after, then where is she? Where's the body? You can't just make a body disappear. Not an 84-year-old woman with health issues. Not someone who couldn't walk 50 yards on her own. She was taken from her home, in the middle of the night, by one person, one masked man. And that one person managed to evade capture. And evade all the cameras, and all the DNA, and all the investigators. Now the sheriff, Chris Nanos, he says they have so much DNA to sort through. But it's been 6 months. And I need you to think about this with me. Because you and I both know that 6 months is a long time. In 6 months, you can process a lot of DNA. You can review a lot of video. You can eliminate suspects. You can build a case. But they haven't released anything. Not a single update. Not a single suspect description. Not a single detail about the investigation. And that's either because they have nothing, or they have everything and they're not telling us. Which one do you think is more likely? Based on everything we know about law enforcement. Based on everything we've seen in cases like this. Based on the way the system works. Which one seems more plausible to you? And here's the other thing. The video. The one of the masked man on the porch. He's wearing a mask. He's armed. He has a backpack. But you can't see his face. You can't see his car. You can't see anything that would identify him. And he was in that house for 45 minutes. 45 minutes. That's an eternity in a high-stress situation. You're leaving DNA everywhere. Sweat. Saliva. Maybe you touch a counter. Maybe you have to use the bathroom. Maybe you leave a hair behind. And the Ring camera. The bite light he's using. He's got that thing in his mouth. You know what that means. Saliva. DNA on the light. DNA on the doorbell. DNA on everything he touched.
Well, I'm going to tell you, the DNA on this, you look at let's look at what they released on the video. The only video we see is the guy on the porch, right?
yeah,
He's got a flashlight in his mouth. Now, I've used bite lights. They're bite lights, so you put them in your mouth. I use them. You're going to have saliva on that. You're going to have saliva on the Ring doorbell. You're going to have saliva on the foliage you pick up. There's going to be DNA transfer there, a lot of it. And even if you're wearing gloves, it doesn't stop you from putting that on the glove and then transferring it to something else. We believe that possibly, and we don't know this is all speculation, they were in that house for 45 minutes. based on video from the Nest camera, Ring camera, whichever it was. There's no way you're in a house for 45 minutes unless you're in a spacesuit where you're not leaving some trace DNA in there. You're in a high stress situation. There's going to be sweat. You may have to use the bathroom. You may touch a counter. You know what I mean? So if it was processed properly, there could be quite a bit of DNA. I mean, you've already gotten samples from the family to eliminate family members or to eliminate profiles found in the house. Okay. It's the oddball profile that you're looking for. But now think about this. Who comes in the house? Are there cleaning ladies that come in the house? Are there gardeners that are on the property? Are there someone that takes care of the pool? All of that has to be considered as well. So 6 months of going through DNA.
And yet, 6 months later, we don't have a suspect. We don't have an arrest. We don't have anything. I'm not saying the sheriff is incompetent. I'm not saying the FBI isn't doing their job. But I am saying that something is broken. Something is wrong. And we all feel it. You know it. I know it. Every single person following this case knows it. Because there's no way an 84-year-old woman disappears from a metropolitan area and no one knows anything. There's no way a ransom note appears and the Bitcoin wallet sits empty. There's no way the FBI has all this technology and all these resources and they can't figure out where a ransom note came from. Unless they already know. And they're not telling us. Or unless the note was a fake, a red herring, a distraction, and whoever wrote it is still out there, still laughing, still getting away with it. And Savannah Guthrie, she's sitting there, day after day, night after night, wondering, hoping, praying. She's doing everything she can. She's using her platform. She's making these pleas. She's begging the people who took her mom to do the right thing. But we all know how this works. We all know that the system is broken, that the powerful get away with things, that the truth gets buried, that stories like this don't always have happy endings. And that's what makes me so angry. That's what makes me lose sleep at night. Because Nancy Guthrie is someone's mother, someone's grandmother, someone's friend. And she deserves better than this. Her family deserves better than this. And we, the people who are watching, the people who are paying attention, we deserve the truth. We deserve to know what happened to her. So I'm going to ask you something, and I want you to really think about it. Why do you think Savannah chose to post that video on July 27th? Was it just to keep the story alive? Was it a milestone plea? Or was there something else happening behind the scenes? Something we don't know about? Something the sheriff isn't telling us? Something the FBI is hiding? Because the timing is too specific. The language is too deliberate. And the pain in her voice is too real. Something happened. Something shifted. And I think it's up to us to figure out what. Because the mainstream media isn't going to do it. They're going to wait for the press release. They're going to wait for the official statement. They're going to wait until the FBI tells them what to say. But we're not like that. We don't wait. We dig. We question. We connect the dots. And we all know that there's more to this story than we're being told. So I'm asking you, just like I'm asking myself, what is the cryptic message hidden in Savannah Guthrie's video? And what does it really mean for the people responsible for taking her mom? Because if there's a message in those words, it's not for us. It's for them. It's for the person who knows where Nancy is. And it's for the person who's been trying to do the right thing. The question is, will they finally listen? Or will they let this case go cold? Will they let Nancy Guthrie become just another missing person? Just another unsolved mystery? Just another name in a file that nobody ever opens again? I don't know about you, but I refuse to let that happen. I refuse to forget. I refuse to move on. Because Nancy Guthrie is not a story. She's a person. She's a mother. She's a grandmother. She's a daughter of God. And she deserves to be found. She deserves to come home. She deserves justice. So let's keep asking the questions. Let's keep pushing. Let's keep demanding answers. Because someday, hopefully soon, the truth will come out. And on that day, we'll be ready. We'll be right here. And we'll finally get the answers we deserve. But until then, I want to leave you with one question. One question that's been burning in my mind since the day I saw that video. Do you believe the FBI already knows who took Nancy Guthrie? And if they do, why haven't they told us? You tell me. Because I think you know. Just like I know.